Patrick Adler, Geography Department. I do economic geography, and my main interest is in understanding why regions grow, and especially in advanced economies. And this is very much related to that. Also very much related to, well, you'll see something that we all do collectively in this faculty every year. Okay, so the old rule of thumb is you're supposed to start a presentation with something funny. I'm going to start with something scary. All right, so you guys ready? Okay. All right, so thankfully there's some recognition here. This is, of course, the GRF portal. So we're all very, gently encouraged every year, especially I think most of us are more junior, to apply for a GRF. And yeah, it's a big initiative every year. It takes a lot of time. I think the expected outcome is failure. So it's not an especially like it probably doesn't conjure a lot of joy among us. But really, what's at the heart of the research that I'm presenting is the question of like, when you consider the University Grants Council, you consider the regional organization that is behind this, and even the exercise of the GRF itself, like what is going on here? And is there something more significant happening than just like making us all uncomfortable every year? And the real thesis at the heart of this project is that yes, actually, not really because of the GRF, but because of a whole set of interactions that happen at a regional level amongst universities in the same place. These types of complexes really matter. So multiple research universities, which I call complexes, are important in the organization of knowledge, the generation of innovation in the modern economy. And so that's kind of the thesis here, and I'm going to try to motivate it a little bit. So at the heart of this research is just this concept that I'm forwarding of a university complex. Regional university complexes are anywhere in a regional area where there's multiple major research universities, So you've got some regions where there's just one university, like one super university you could call it, and then you've got other regions like our own in Hong Kong with a lot of research universities. And the whole idea is that these complexes are more than the sum of their parts, that they actually are these really key nodes of organizing knowledge and innovation in the modern economy. And I'm sort of trying to concretize the definition or the concept of a research complex, but I'm not creating this out of thin air. When you look at the field that I'm a part of, regional economic development, formations like the Tech Triangle in North Carolina, so this has Duke, North Carolina State, and the University of North Carolina, are celebrated. There's, of course, the Boston-Cambridge complex. There's Silicon Valley. So I'm not the first to notice that these kind of ecosystems of universities really do matter. But what I do want to do is first make the sort of theoretical argument that metropolitan areas are really the natural, organic unit at which university knowledge might be organized, not universities. And then I want to go into more empirical contributions. So I want to show that complexes are actually the preferred pattern if you see things in a kind of metropolitan way. And then I want to show, and this goes to Professor Wong's research, that complexes can be more efficient than single universities, super universities for organizing knowledge. And then I want to talk at the end about policy. So first, we could talk about the metropolitan scale. So you can think about knowledge production at the university scale as I think we are accustomed to thinking about. Or you could aggregate across the metropolitan area and look at everything at the metropolitan scale. I would argue for the latter. I think we don't do the latter enough. First of all, because learning and interaction is regional. So we interact with scholars from Hong Kong. We meet scholars from Hong Kong and then interact with them. Outside of our own personal networks, Hong Kong is kind of like a mechanism for generating interactions. And there's a lot of like economic development literature to support this. Also, labor markets are regional, okay? And one way we can understand this is like, if you found out that you're not working at HKU tomorrow, are you necessarily gonna leave Hong Kong? No, because you might be matched to a university, another university in Hong Kong, another research university. So, this is really the natural way at which like matching professors and researchers and universities, like this happens at a metro scale. It doesn't really just happen at university scale. And then of course there is regional governance that does support what's going on at the university scale, including the UGC, but not just the UGC. So, you could think of like the central government of Hong Kong would be, does all kinds of initiatives to support university research. And it's not just for HKU, it's not just for HKUST, it's for all these places. And all these places sort of compete. So I don't think we think about the metropolitan scale enough in my literature, and we should. Okay, so when you're actually seeing the world this way, as like, let's just look at research universities in metropolitan areas, you could ask yourself the question, like, how is production organized? How is knowledge production organized? At the extreme on one end would be one super university. You put all production into one super university and you unleash economies of scale in that university. But what we actually have is a complex system. So this like complex thing that I'm talking about. So this is, if you look at the QS 500, the top 500 QS universities, you add all enrollments at the metropolitan scale represented by that. What you see is, 6+ universities in a metropolitan area. Those are at the top. And then you've got 5+, you've got 4+, and you have to go, okay, sorry, this isn't QS, this is US. Okay, so you could do it, I do it with US, I do it with QS. So we'll start with QS. So you do QS. Mexico City has this kind of super university model. There's one big research university in Mexico City, but for the most part, there's like some color on this graph. So you've got complexes representing. In the US, it's even more like this. So, there's no reason theoretically why we wouldn't observe super universities, but we don't observe super universities. We do observe some kind of complex formation. So this does seem to be the preferred arrangement. And I guess I'll just underscore that it doesn't have to be this way. And if you're just interested in economies of scale, it wouldn't necessarily be that way because you internalize within a university a lot of infrastructure, a lot of fixed costs, and then you unleash economies of scale. We don't organize knowledge production in that way. So the question would be, why don't we do that? Like theoretically, why would it be better and more efficient to have multiple universities and not just one university, to have these complexes? I identified two theoretical explanations for this. One is a kind of combined specialization argument. So, we could think of HKUST, science and technology specialized. We could think of HKU has more business, has more humanities. If you imagine a project that requires both of these expertises, you can combine them in the matching market of Hong Kong and create a team that taps into both of these expertises. And you've got HKUST where they get better at being scientists. You've got here where you get better at being business faculty. You put this together and maybe you unleash the combination there. And what you need in order to really do this, in order to get out ahead, is you need to lower the transaction costs of making this match and then tap into the relative specialization. The other thing, of course, and this goes back to the GRF exercise, is competition. Okay, so you've got different departments competing against each other, different scholars competing against each other within the same metro area. You're always kind of looking down the road, seeing what your neighbor's doing, and maybe this does bring out the best of you as an institution, and maybe HKU does better because it's competing with 5, 6, 7 other major research universities. So, yeah. So I'll just, I'm presenting a lot of ideas to you. I'll just present some preliminary evidence that maybe there are some efficiencies that are generated here. And to do this first, what I'll do is I'll take a, oh, and I guess all I would say is that the kind of way that you generate efficiency at a metropolitan level is through scale. So the bigger the scale, the more the competition. The bigger the scale, the more this like combined specialization is happening. So one thing we can do is we can look at scale. So that's on the x-axis here. The scale, so on the left panel, it's the scale according to university enrollment within the university. In the middle panel, it's the scale of enrollment at the university complex. You add up all the enrollment. And what you see is there's actually, for patents, there's a stronger relationship between scale at the metro level, so combined university, than there is at the individual university scale. And what you also see is that as scale increases across these versions of scale, with the third column being population, there is a general tendency for patents per output, citations per output, and forward-weighted citation impact to increase. So bigger places do, probably because of the benefits of scale, generate these better outcomes. The other way we can look at this is through the natural scaling literature. And most people's eyes are probably going to glaze over, but basically the idea here is that if you have a system and you put into it some resources, some inputs, what kind of returns are you going to get into that system? So we've got this system, we put into it students, we put into it faculty members. Do we get a proportionate number of outputs out? That's linear scaling. Do we get more outputs out per unit? That's superlinear scaling. Or do we get fewer per unit? That's sublinear scaling. The early indications, and this is fairly early research, is that there is superlinear scaling with respect to university scale. So that's the first point. But the second point is that with things like patents, citations, output, government grants, and media articles, you have more superlinear scaling at the level of the metropolitan area than you do at the level of the university campus. So this does sort of point to some kind of more than the sum of its parts idea, some kind of greater efficiency that you get in a university complex like Hong Kong. So to finish off, I'll just talk about policy. And what's very interesting about this research is that it coincides with, and is probably like in my heart of hearts, like influenced by a policy move in mainland China and France towards building building complexes kind of from scratch. So in mainland, there's an initiative in Guangdong, there's an initiative in Shandong, where I recently came back from, to take university parts that exist in the province and repatriate them to these university towns. And so on one hand, maybe this is an attempt to tap into these scale economies. On the other hand, to the extent that these initiatives lower competition, to the extent that they lower specialization or something, then maybe this works against some of the benefits of having a complex. And by that same token, the GRF exercise, maybe the GRF exercise is really the best of university scaling. Or on the other hand, because there's just one GRF exercise, because there's not a lot of competition institutionally for GRFs, maybe it's not. Maybe there should be like more than one GRF exercise. Maybe there should be several GRF exercises and several funding bodies and competition amongst them. And so there's like, I scared you once. That's like the second scary idea. We don't have enough GRFs. With that, I'll kind of leave it for questions. Thanks.